So fellas, Baldy's been busy. He's just announced a bunch of big fights for UFC 323, and he might have just announced the most stacked card of the year. UFC 323 just been announced a bunch of big fights, and we'll start off with the main event, Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan 2. Before we talk about the fight, what are they feeding Merab? Because I swear a week ago, this guy just dominated Corey Sandhagen, one of the best bantamweights in the world, for 25 minutes, as he usually does. Went out and partied a couple hours later, then went and visited Aljamain Sterling's wedding. He's also just casually just set the record for the most title defenses in a single year. 4 defenses in a single year's career. Bantamweight as well, especially. To kick off the year, you know, by beating Umar Nurmagomedov. Couple months later, beating O'Malley. Couple months later, beating Sandhagen. And to get that extra fight, and he's now taking on Petr Yan as well. And he's lapping the division too. This guy's a fucking monster in the bantamweight division. And I think Petr Yan's definitely the right opponent for him. Obviously, we've got Umar versus Batista in a couple of weeks' time. And I think the winner of that fight should get a title shot. Obviously, Umar getting a rematch. But I think Petr Yan should be next. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. He's looked good in all 3. But he's on a winning streak since he got dominated by Merab. That's the last guy he lost to. So my only prediction is going to be Merab to get this one done by decision. I think the first fight between the two of them was arguably Merab's most dominant performance. And obviously Merab's had a shit ton of dominant performances. He might be the most dominant champion in the UFC right now. But the first time they fought, I'm pretty sure Merab set a record on him for the most takedowns. I think that record might have been broken by the Sandhagen fight. I'm not sure. But Merab dominated him. And I'm expecting it to go the same way. I know Petr Yan's improved his wrestling in his last couple of fights. But I don't see anybody in the bantamweight division beating Merab Dvalishvili. Maybe if we hadn't seen the first fight, I could be going in Petr Yan's way, but we've seen the fight before. Merab dominated him. I expect him to do it again. He's been active. He's literally fought every style you can think of. Well-rounded guys in Corey Sandhagen, he's ticked it off. Strikers in Sean O'Malley, he's ticked it off. Grapplers in Umar, he's ticked it off. And you know what? He's done it all in this year. And now he's taking on Petr Yan. I think Petr Yan's like just a stylistically a little bit of a bigger threat than Corey Sandhagen. You know, really good boxer, good wrestler, whatever, but I see Merab dominating him across 25. We've seen it before, and the thing about Petr Yan is he kind of affords... what Petr Yan tends to do is lose early on. You know, those early rounds against O'Malley, he was losing. Even against Marcus McGee, in his most recent fight, he was losing early on. You can't afford to get rounds off early on against Merab, because early on, Merab's going to be, you know, 100%. Round 5, he's also going to be 100%. You've got to get the rounds in early, and Petr Yan ain't the type of guy to do that. So I think Merab dominates him. He's finally got a main event as well without having to rely on O'Malley as well, which is good for Merab. And I think he'll have a good, he'll have a good chance at headlining an event because the guy's a star. You know, he's active as fuck, good personality, big star outside of just the octagon as well. So I'm going to go Merab by domination against Petr Yan. We also have Pantoja versus Van. Yeah, this is one of the most anticipated fights I've had in a while. With the flyweight belt as well, I don't remember the last time I was this excited for a flyweight title fight. Obviously, UFC 317, we saw them both fight. Pantoja dominating Kai Sakura and Roy Val and Joshua Van in probably one of the best fights of 2025. They faced off afterwards, and, you know, this was always the fight to make. It wasn't really a matter of if this fight's going to be next. It was a matter of when. We've got the fight booked, the UFC 323. I mean, thank you, Michael Aswell, for dropping this fight a couple of days ago at UFC Rio. But, yeah, this fight is just so intriguing to me because you've got the mud and go in Pantoja, who's honestly not far from overtaking DJ, just beating everybody, similar to Merab, beating every different style in his division, clearing off, ticking names, lapping the division, and now you're getting him against this fresh contender, number 1 in the division, Joshua Van, this young, I think he's like 23 years old, young guy, just beat Brandon Royval, again, beat a whole range of styles. It's such an intriguing matchup, and it's going to be tough for Pantoja too, because Joshua Van's got good takedown defense, and he's got way better boxing than Pantoja too, so I could see Pantoja getting out boxed across 5, but my early prediction is going to be Pantoja decision. As much as I do have a lot of hype in Joshua Van, and I do think stylistically he is the biggest threat to Pantoja in this division, I ain't picking no one against Pantoja. The guy's getting better. He started finishing his fights as well. Before, fair enough, he was having a bunch of these close fights like the one with Steve Erceg and Moreno, but now, I don't know, he seems to be adjusted to this, not adjusted to the division, but he just seems to be getting better. 2 submissions in a row. Fair enough, it's not against the best grapplers, but have we really seen Joshua Van against any elite grapplers as well? We saw him against Ray Saruya. That's the only real grappler we've seen him against. So I think Pantoja gets it done. Similar game plan as always. Engage in a scrap, take him down, mix up the grappling. So I think it goes very similar to the Steve Erceg fight. Close fight. Van has a lot of success on the feet, pieces up Pantoja, but I think Pantoja's grappling and that gritty, scrappy style across 25 minutes too, it is going to be tough for Joshua Van, so it's going to be a fucking banger, man. I can't wait for it, but I'm going to go Pantoja by decision. Then we've also got another flyweight fight, Brandon Moreno versus Tatsuro Taira. Again, a fucking banger in the flyweight division. And then you've got Moreno, 2-fight winning streak since losing to Pantoja, pieced up Merab, pieced up Steve Erceg. He's about a fight away from a title shot. You've got Tatsuro Taira, who was kind of in the place that Joshua Van was in before, where he was like kind of this young, hungry prospect at 125. Obviously, just submitted Hyung Sung Park in a main event. This should be a title eliminator in my opinion. The winner gets a title fight. Obviously, Moreno, if he beats Taira, I know he's lost to Pantoja 4 different times before, but he's now on a 3-fight winning streak if he does beat Taira. And Taira, he's one of the few names in the division that Pantoja hasn't fought. If he beats Moreno, you've got to give him a shot. My only prediction for this fight, I'm going to go Moreno decision. I think I'm going to go Moreno to beat Tatsuro Taira, even though I kind of want Tatsuro Taira to win because, I mean, you can't really sell Moreno and Pantoja 4 because obviously they fought 3 times before. You can't really sell a 4th fight, but Moreno's 0-3. But Moreno does well against grapplers. I mean, even, you know, the best grappler in the division in Pantoja, he made it a very, very close fight the 3rd time around. He didn't get dominated the entire fight as well. It was a back-and-forth scrap. Merab last year kept the fight on the feet the entire fight and just simply pieced him up as well. Moreno historically doesn't do bad against grapplers. I mean, the guy submitted Figueiredo, so even though Taira's probably got some of the best jiu-jitsu in this division, I see Moreno keeping the fight standing. And I think on the feet purely, Taira's striking's improved, but I think Moreno's probably the best, or the second best boxer in this division to Joshua Van. So I'm going to go with Moreno to get this one done by decision. Keeps the fight standing across 15 minutes, keeps the fight standing, picks apart Tatsuro Taira, keeps the fight like I just said on the feet. So good fight. I kind of want Taira to win so we have a new contender, but I'm going to go with Moreno to get the job done and possibly set up a 4th fight with Pantoja despite being 0-3. But for that to be on the same card as the flyweight co-main event as well, it's good because obviously they're setting up a, like I said, a title eliminator. Another good fight. We've also got one of the most confusing fights the UFC have announced in a long time. Henry Cejudo versus Payton Talbott. This is a weird fight, weird matchmaking, but I actually fuck with it. I like this fight. I feel like it's a weird ass matchup. Like nobody saw this coming. And I feel like he goes one of two wins. Henry gets flatlined or Talbot gets mauled. It's a weird fight to predict because you've obviously got Cejudo, who's obviously one of the goats at bantamweight. But since coming back, it's been a travesty. He got dominated by Sterling. He got dominated by Merab. Fair enough, there are, you know, one former champion and one current champion. And then he took on Song Yudong earlier on this year. Eye poke stoppage, but even outside of the eye pokes, he was getting dominated on the feet. You put him against one of the, you know, striking prospects in this division right now in Payton Talbot, who had a shit ton of hype because of his knockout power. It's a tough fight for Cejudo, but then you can also flip it around. 2 fights ago, I watched Payton Talbot get dominated by 58-year-old Jaime Barcelos across 15 minutes and nearly got finished. Now you put him against one of the best historic wrestlers in the bantamweight division. It's going to be tough, man. It's a massive step up in competition for Payton Talbot. Obviously, the UFC are hoping that Talbot can take out Cejudo because then Talbot's in the top 10 and maybe even like a massive fight with O'Malley can go through. But I'm going to go with Cejudo to win this one by decision. Yeah, this is an astronomical step up for Payton Talbot. And I know Cejudo's lost his last couple of fights and whatever, but he's literally lost to the best. Merab, the GOAT. You know, Aljamain Sterling, reigning champion. Song Yudong, top 5 in the world, one of the most underrated bantamweights. He's literally lost to the best and he's lost to all of them by decision. And now you put him against Payton Talbot. Payton Talbot's, I mean, his biggest weakness is grappling. I know he improved against Felipe Lima, but I'm going to go Cejudo to win this one. I mean, he's historically been one of the best wrestlers at bantamweight, former Olympic wrestler. And after watching Jaime Barcelos versus Payton Talbot, I've got to go with Cejudo. And I don't think he's washed enough at this point where he gets pieced up by Payton Talbot. Talbot had a pretty close fight with Felipe Lima. And he's, like I said, it's just an astronomical step up in competition. A guy who we've seen get dominated by grappling before against one of the best pure wrestlers in this division. Albeit, yes, Cejudo's washed. Obviously not in his prime, but I don't think it takes a prime Cejudo to beat Talbot. So, as good as Talbot is, and I think he's definitely got the capability to flatline Cejudo, I'm going to go Cejudo decision. I think, like I said, he's only lost to top guys. You know, he was winning rounds against Sterling. So, I'm going to go Cejudo decision. Big step up for Talbot, and I think he gets the job done. We've also got Jan Blachowicz versus Bogdan Guskov. Obviously, this has kind of been leaked for a while, but it's now only got a date, UFC 323. Another interesting fight, you've got Bogdan Guskov, who's on a massive roll in the UFC. 4 finishes in a row. Probably the most powerful guy we've got coming up in this division right now. Just knocked out Nikita Krylov earlier this year at UFC. I think it was UFC 317. And obviously, Jan Blachowicz, former champion, and he's not really been going his way these past couple of years. He's been a bit inactive. His last win was against Rakic back in 2022, and that was an injury win as well. So it's a tough fight, but I've said it before. Listen, I would like for Bogdan Guskov to beat Jan Blachowicz simply for the fact that we've now got a new name at 205, and if Payton moves up, we've now got a new name to potentially challenge for the belt. But I've never really been bought on the hype of Bogdan Guskov. I'm going to go with Jan Blachowicz to win this one by finish. I think Jan Blachowicz is levels above Bogdan Guskov. I'm picking the guy. Well, I mean, we've seen Bogdan Guskov get out-grappled before. Volkan Oezdemir dominated him in his debut, beat him on the feet, took him down, got the TKO, I think it was a submission, but beat him with the grappling as well. Even against Billy Elakena 2 fights ago, Bogdan Guskov got taken down. And now you put him against Jan Blachowicz, a guy that can wrestle, the guy that arguably beat Alex Pereira when Payton first moved to 205. I know, again, similar to Cejudo, I know Jan Blachowicz not in his prime. I know he's washed. I know he's been losing his past couple of fights. Even the Cejudo loss, though. Not the Cejudo loss. What's his name? Carlos Ulberg loss. Another very close fight. So I'm going to go with Yan Blachowicz by TKO. I can see him showing Bogdan Guskov levels, taking him down, roughing him up with the ground and pound and getting a finish. I really don't rate Bogdan Guskov that much. I think he's super dangerous. I think he hits super hard. But as far as skills go, I've never been that impressed. You put him against a former champion, and again, a guy that's only losing to the top guys. Drew with Ankalaev, arguably beat Payton. I'm going to go Yan Blachowicz by TKO. I think he mauls him with the wrestling, takes him down, and beats him. I think it's going to be a more vicious display of what he nearly did to Alex Pereira. And then some other fights for this card. We've got Petr Yan versus Nazim Sadikov. Again, another banger for this fight. I mean, this card's going to be tough to predict the fight. The fight, and actually, you've got Nazim Sadikov, who just had one of the best fights of 2025 in Baku, beat the shit out of Nicholas Motta, and he's one of the best unranked strikers in this division. And Petr Yan, I'd probably say, he's the best unranked fighter right now in the lightweight division. Great, well-rounded guy, big winning streak, slept Frivola a couple of fights ago and dominated Mike Davis. It would be good to see Petr Yan get someone in the top 15, and I think whoever does win this fight, you've got to give them someone in the top 15. But I'm going to go with Sadikov to win this one by decision. I think Sadikov's one of the best up-and-comers we've got right now. Like I said, probably the best unranked striker, great kickboxer. And Petr Yan, I know he's looked good in a couple of his performances and he's well-rounded, but he's also had a few stinky performances, you know. The fight with Jai Herbert, he didn't look that good. He was a bit of a decisionator earlier on in his career. So I think we're going to go to Sadikov by decision. I think he just outstrikes Petr Yan, keeps the fight standing and outstrikes him across 15 minutes. So I'm going to go Sadikov decision, and hopefully after that we can give him somebody like Moicano or someone in the top 15, because he's definitely deserved it. And then another fight, Terence McKinney versus Chris Duncan. I mean, this is beyond a banger. This is like, if there was like, you bet the fucking house it don't go past the first round. And you already know who I'm picking. I'm picking McKinney by KO, and I don't even need to specify the round because it's fucking McKinney. I'm going McKinney by KO in the first. And I say that because, listen, Chris Duncan's on the rise, but he's vulnerable. You know, on the contender series, he's been slept before. On the second round on the contender series, he nearly got slept again. He's a bit of a chinny guy, is Chris Duncan. You put him against the most dangerous yet most vulnerable guy in the UFC right now in McKinney. I just don't really see a game plan for Chris Duncan. He's definitely not knocking McKinney out. If anybody's getting slept, it's going to be Chris Duncan. And if Chris Duncan initiates the grappling, McKinney's got insane jiu-jitsu. I think he's got 2 subs in a row now. So I'm going to go McKinney by some sort of first round finish, then get KO. It's probably the highest probability. But yeah, UFC 323 to end off the year. I think this might be one of the last pay-per-views the UFC having as well. It's a banger. Shit ton of fun fights on there. 2 title fights, 2 intriguing title fights, 2 Merab setting records, Pantoja Van. This is a sick card. Let me know your thoughts on this card, what your thoughts on the fights are. I think it's one of the best cards we've got in 2025, and I think it's got potential as well because of the amount of bangers on this card. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching.